My name is David Johnson. I am the physical education and football coach at Pelham High School. I'm the defensive coordinator and linebacker coach with the football team, and also coach wrestling. I was asked the other day what one of my favorite quotes was. A lot of them come to mind, but the one that always jumps out at me is adjust, adapt, and overcome. In life, you're going to have situations that come up that you have to adjust to on the fly. You got to be able to do that without too much trouble. And then you're going to have to adapt to whatever that adjustment is, learn how to get better at what it is, what the adjustment was, and then eventually you're going to have to overcome hardships in life, and you got to find out ways to do those. And it's just one of my favorite quotes: adjust, adapt, and overcome. Another question was asked to me was, what would you do if you won the lottery? Most people would go, I'd tell everybody, but I wouldn't tell anybody for 89 days. Because on the 90th day, you got to claim your prize. So I'd wait till the 90th day to tell everybody I won the lottery. And then probably do the usual things that most people do when they win the lottery: take care of my bills, take care of my family, and then probably set up some, I always want to set up some scholarships in my parents' names at their schools they went to school at, and one for my father-in-law, and then one for me and my wife at Troy University, or Troy State when we was there, where we graduated from. But that'd be some of the things I'd do if I won the lottery. Another question I was asked was, what is the hardest thing you ever done? There's a lot of things that are hard in life, but I think the hardest thing that I've ever done was prepare for a bodybuilding show. I've been a competitive bodybuilder throughout my life, but preparing for a bodybuilding show is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Not only does it take going to the gym and doing the workouts, but the nutrition part of it, the cardio part of it, the time involved in it. You look at all the time that's involved in that. You're spending 4 to 6 hours a day training for one show that you hope to win, and there's no, you don't know if you're going to win because you don't know who's going to show up at that show. It could be somebody that come out of the blue that you never knew was coming and beat you, but you try to do the best you can do and push yourself the hardest you can push, planning your meals, making sure you're eating properly, make sure you're eating at the right time properly, having the same number of meals you're supposed to have that day, getting the number of protein grams, carbohydrate grams, fat grams. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it that people don't realize. They just think you go to the gym and you train and you build muscles, but a lot more to that. And then trying to cut the weight and get the body fat off and the water off, it's pretty rough to do that. So that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Next question that was asked to me was, describe your parents. My parents grew up during the Depression. For those of you who are too young to remember what the Depression was, that's a time when our country was probably at the lowest it would be. People going without, having to move, very hard time. But they grew up during that time in rural Alabama. Both grew up on farms and learned how to work for what they wanted in life. And both of them instilled that in me. My dad was a hard worker, worked for the State Department of Agriculture, state of Alabama. A lot of time in the fields and working the stuff that he did growing up. And my mother was the mother that stayed home, always took care of the family. Very faithful woman, instilled my faith in me that I still carry today. But both of them gave me traits that I tried to pass down to my children. I hope they've come with those traits. But they've gone on now, and sometimes I wish I could have them to talk to again. Last question I was asked was, what drives you to be successful? I guess the tails off the last question. My parents' work ethic they gave me. Always do the best you can be. A couple other things come to mind when they're asked what drives you to be successful is, if I go back to the bodybuilding question, a lot of times people told me that I couldn't do it, and I proved them wrong. So that's another thing that could drives me to be successful, is people telling me that I can't do something, and then having the discipline, the willpower, and the work ethic to go about it and see that it's done and you achieve the goal you set out to achieve. Failure is always a drive because you don't like to fail. We always fail. The only way you learn is through failures. Some of them are tough to take, and some of them you can look at and go, well, next time I got to do that better. So being successful is a personal goal. Whatever your personal goal is to be successful, mine is to try to be the best person I can be each and every day, and pass that on to people that's all around me. Hopefully that comes off of me, and they see that what it takes to be the best you can be, and they get a little bit from me.